News Talk 96.1 and AM 1180 KERN.
Mr. Keith Woolridge, how are you, my friend?
Hello there, Richard. How are you, my brother?
Congratulations on your book, my friend.
Oh, thank you so very much. But, after listening to your two previous guests, man, Dr. Betty and Pastor Robinson, but you should have just stopped while you were ahead.
No. You're batting cleanup here. You're batting cleanup, Look, I mean, one of the reasons, and I've only read excerpts of your book. I've ordered it and it hasn't come, Do you have one here locally?
Absolutely. It's funny. I've been trying to get by my good friend Mike Russo's to get it down there. Mm-hmm. That's my next stop. I've been asked that question, and I do want to support local businesses. Mike and I did have a conversation, so I'm going to go see him most likely Saturday so I can just have a few copies there for the locals so they don't have to wait on the mail for those that want it.
That would be terrific. Your book is called 5 Pillars. Talk to me about the genesis of the book. The theme in it. Why did you decide to write it, and how long has this book been living in you?
This book has been living in me for 53 years. Why do you say that? My father, James Woolridge, he was a decent man, an honest man, a caring man, a firm man, an uneducated man, but he's instilled principles in myself, my sister, and my brother that are evergreen principles. So after his death, I was in a bunch of grief, Richard. I just didn't know what to do. And it took me 10 years really to write this book. But it was a good thing because in these 10 years since his death, I've matured, I've grown, I've developed. And this is just kind of a release to say, look, I see our country. We are a wonderful country. We are a beautiful country. Even with all our faults, this is still the best country in the world. But I'm noticing us going down a slippery slope where integrity, I write about integrity. I write about being decent, just decency, perseverance, having the courage that when you see something wrong, you say something's wrong. Mm-hmm. And perseverance, all undergirded by the value of faith. So this book is about me telling the story of my life through the lens of my father, telling his life through my lens of him, and to speak to our country to get us back on the right track. That's why I appreciate Pastor who was just on before me, mm-hmm. her passion, her zeal. It lifts my spirits to hear that, all's not lost yet, that there are people out there who exhibit the pillars that I outlined in this text.
Man, I'm so glad to hear you say that. And I mentioned it to Pastor Robinson, and I'll repeat it to you. I just think we're at a time in this country's history when there is something in all of us we're looking for hope. We're looking for a reason to believe. We don't want to go backwards to the America of 25 years ago, but we do want to go back to the point where, as Americans, we shared a vision and a hope that life could be better for all of us, no matter what you look like. Talk to me. What are the 5 pillars, and explain a little bit why each one is important to you.
The first pillar is integrity. Just integrity. Mm-hmm. Again, and I'm not talking about being pious. I'm not talking about being perfect. I'm not talking about being sinless, because we're all fallible human beings. Mm-hmm. But what I am saying, Richard, if you see somebody drop a $20 bill in front of you, it's not finders, keepers, losers, weepers. Mm-hmm. It's, sir, ma'am, I believe this belongs to you. Tap them on the shoulder. Give them their money back. I'm watching corporate America, and I have the blessed and fortunate opportunity to teach at Bakersfield College. And I'm telling my students, as we're reading the Wall Street Journal or we're reading Fortune magazine, there's this principle that seems to have arisen in American business, and I call it the 11th commandment: thou shalt not get caught.
Yeah, right.
So I want to tell my students, hey, this is not how we conduct ourselves in this country. You all are 17, 18, 19, maybe 60 years old in my class, and this is not the way we treat each other as Americans. The second one is perseverance. Again, I'm from Merced, California, and we struggled. I don't know if we were upper poor or lower middle financially. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And to see my mom and dad persevere in the 70s, especially my dad, who we would probably class, he was illiterate. I didn't know this till I was a junior in college.
Really?
Yes,
really?
My dad was illiterate. I didn't know that till I was a junior in college when he got his GED, and I talk about the story in the book when I found out. But, you know, he persevered having little to no education in the 1970s for an African-American male, which is 10 years post-civil rights. He was born in 42. So he lived through Jim Crow uneducated. Yeah. He came through so you can only imagine in 1975, 76 what his life was like, being 30 years old, trying to raise a family on minimum wage. That was my life.
Oh, boy.
Number 3, I talk about decency. You know, in the age of social media, I believe we refer to it now, there's certain things I was raised, you just don't say to somebody's face.
Yeah, right.
There's just some things, Richard, you're just not going to say. You're going to conduct yourself in a way that is right. You're going to conduct yourself in a way that is moral. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. We remember that phrase.
Oh, yeah.
The audience does as well.
Right.
My 4th one, which means a lot to me, is courage. You know, we just buried the late John Lewis, and if you see something wrong, you say something wrong. I believe we've lacked courage in this country because we are more concerned about being invited to the chicken dinner, staying in the clique, staying in the club, and we've lost our ability to say, you know, that's not right. And I don't care who it is, because I was raised to speak truth to power. I was just raised that way. You may not like it. I do my best not to offend you, but I'm going to let you know what side the bread is buttered on, you know, in the most decent and kind and genteel way that I can. Yeah. But I do believe we need to tell the truth with courage and speak truth to power, especially when we see there is a character flaw, the integrity, the maturity isn't there. We owe it to our demos to say something.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this, Keith, because I think that's so important, the point you're making about speaking truth to power and courage. Because, look, I love this community. I'm not from here. I didn't grow up here. I grew up in the South. But this has been my home for a long time, and I raised my girls here. But that is easier said than done in this community, because let's be honest, this is a community of cliques, and this is a community that if you want to be in the right group, you know, then you better toe the line. And I'm speaking truth to power now. It just is. And you know what, you know, we don't need to single out groups, but you know, it could be political parties, it could be social cliques, it could be business social cliques, but you will be expelled like a cancer how have you managed in that environment to be as successful you are in speaking truth to power here?
I haven't always been successful at it, Richard. I just have to trust that people understand my heart. And when I'm speaking truth to power, it's not to condemn you. Mm-hmm. It's maybe just offer a little bit of correction. I write about it. It says it's safer to acquiesce. It is safer to just get along, just to get along. Mm-hmm. But for me, that's the stance of the weak and the feeble when they lack courage. Mm-hmm. Taking a stance and speaking to power may cost you your Rolodex connections, invitation to various chicken dinners and ballrooms accounts across the country. But I ask this question: do you have the courage to say, this is against my principles and values, even if the price means you are not invited to the social parties, asked to participate with the clique, the club, and the inner circle? That's what I'm talking. Yes, it may cost you. It may cost you an invite. But as the great Spike Lee wrote, I should say in his movie, Do the Right Thing, do the right thing. Yeah. Because the reason why we have run amok in this country is because people are not courageous folk enough. There are not enough courageous people to say, hold it, that's slow down here, and let's do the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
That's so powerful. Seriously, I think that is. I wish I had read that 10 years ago. Thank you for saying that. So we've got integrity, perseverance. I can't say enough about perseverance. I mean, I really think that's the difference with a lot of people who make it and people don't. You just got to keep at it. Decency, courage. What's number 5?
All undergirded by faith.
Okay.
Because it takes faith to have integrity, because it may not work out well for you. You got to keep going.
Yeah.
It takes faith to persevere, to know that tomorrow, just maybe, I got my head handed to me today, but tomorrow may be better. Yeah. It takes courage or faith to be decent, because they may spat back in your face. They may cuss you out. It takes faith to exhibit courage, because you could lose your connections. So if faith undergirds all of this, it is the foundation. You must have faith, or we would just curl up in a ball in a corner somewhere. So when I write about these things, again, I want your audience to know, I'm not talking about being pious. I'm fallible. I'm a sinful man. I've made errors. I outline them here in the book where I did not always live up to my values of integrity. I've fallen. I'm not talking about being perfect. I'm not talking about being without spot, wrinkle, or blemish. But what I am saying, when you got the opportunity to do the right thing, for God's sake and for your neighbors, do it.
Oh man, that is so. Tell me about. I look at successful people like you, Keith. And whenever I meet somebody like you, I instantly think I'll bet you his parents or her parents were remarkable people. You just talked about your father getting his GED when you were in college, or I think you said that. Tell me what kind of man he was and what kind of influence he had on you.
Again, a decent man, a quiet man except when you irritated him. A very solemn man, but he was a firm man when it came to certain principles. And one of his principles was, my children are going to be obedient, and my children are going to go to school, and they're going to serve. That's what I got. It's funny, people always ask me, Keith, why are you on this committee or on that board? Well, when I think back on it now, I was raised that way. That's all I saw was the service of my mom and my dad. So it's part of who I am. It's a part of my DNA, Richard. So he was just he was illiterate. I used to be his GPS system. I tell the story when he couldn't stay employed, because once he got employed, they found out that he couldn't read. So you can't do the manual if you can't read. So, but this man would get a job. I remember being 12, 13 years old, traveling down to 99. He used to deliver boats, and he would say, when you see Visalia, son, let me know. When you see this street, let me know. We're playing the music.
Wow.
We're playing it. I did not know. I'm thinking I'm just hanging with my dad. I'm his Google map.
Right. You didn't know at that time. You just thought I'm going to play navigator, going to help my dad. Yeah.
No, I was his GPS system.
Interesting.
Or when we would go to a restaurant, and he would I look back on it now, Richard, it's amazing. He would say, Keith, I forgot my glasses. Just get me what you get.
Oh, wow.
So he couldn't read the menu.
Why do you think that he must have been ashamed to tell you that? Did he think he would be judged by his son?
Think about this. You've grown up in the 40s and 50s. He's been judged his entire life.
Yeah.
We have to put his life in perspective of where we were as a country.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think, again, a man's pride, right? He doesn't want his 9-year-old son to know.
Right.
My mom hid his secret as well. So I don't fault my father by any means.
Sure.
But this is what, and it's funny, I went on a walk with a friend this morning, and we were having a conversation, and we were talking about certain things. He says, Keith, it's those lessons that have framed you. So I'm really authentic in this book. I'm very vulnerable. I'll be honest with you, Richard, I'm scared to death because I put it out there.
Yeah, interesting.
But I think it's a message that is not only for Kern County, but for the nation, especially as we find ourselves in our current condition.
Oh, you talk about that because I know you've been part of the conversation about the Black Lives Movement and police reform and a lot of the turmoil and social turmoil that's going on. How do you view this book, helping in the national conversation about where we're going and how we can treat our brothers and sisters on this planet better?
We all need integrity.
Yeah.
We need to treat each other well. We have to persevere. We have to. I think it was James Baldwin that says, "Hope is invented every day." Right. Ooh. So that's perseverance. We got to keep going as a country. We can get better. Do better, fail again. Well, I can't remember the quote. Do better, fail again, fail better. I think you all know who I'm thinking about there. Mm-hmm. We all need decency, black, white, brown. We all need to treat each other with decency. We may not agree one with another, but we should all be decent even in our disagreements. And we need courage to confront the hard parts of this life, of this journey. We may have to have some hard conversations, and that takes courage because we're all going to be exposed. Our fears are going to arise, but we must address them. And again, we need faith that if we do the right thing by one another, our country can be all that we've been called to be.
Oh, boy, man, what a great note to end it on. Keith Woolridge, I'm looking forward to reading this. I ordered it off Amazon a couple days ago. Normally it gets here like overnight, but it hasn't gotten here yet. The book is 5 pillars. The pillars are integrity, perseverance, decency, courage, and, of course, with faith. All that wouldn't be possible. Keith Woolridge, thank you so much. Congratulations on, it sounds like a terrific book. I can't wait to read it. And thank you for sharing time with us.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. I know you're a professional. I was reading it again. I found some comma splices, brother. So if you could look over my comma splices and read my heart. It's funny. The more I read, I go, oh, I should have said that better.
Oh, I know.
It doesn't go there. Oh, God. So if you could just, blink and nod and wink at where I use the comma.
I think you're being too hard on yourself. I think you're being too hard. I can't wait to read it. It's the 5 pillars. Keith Woolridge, everybody. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Hope to have you on again soon. Would you come back?
Anytime, Richard. Anytime.
Okay, buddy. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate it.
News Talk 96.1 and AM 1180 KERN.